respond.
The initiative simply was an effort to ask the commission to be more accountable to the citizens. Is that?
So I'll read to you the the language of the initiative. It says, so the initiative would be any issue supported by the signatures of 11.5% of active voters of San Juan County, Utah, must be placed on the ballot of a countywide election to establish the will of the citizenry before publicly supported or opposed by the San Juan County Commission.
So is the problem with the 11.5%, or what created the problem? I think I understand what the people that had the initiative. I think I understand what they're trying to do, but
So I think I understand what they're trying to do as well, but I'm not sure that I do fully. So there's a couple of things that raise concerns for me. Number one is state law allows a county the size of San Juan County to have an initiative process and a referendum process, and the commission has dealt with a referendum now, and now this is an initiative. So you'll probably be the most experienced commission in the state of Utah on this after today. But based on San Juan County's size, one of the requirements is that in order to have an initiative placed on the ballot or come before the commission to determine referability is that they collect 11.5%. So that number is the same as what's required in state law. The concern that I have as to whether it's referable or not, because so one of the requirements, if you look at, or for any of you that want to write it down and look at it, it's in Utah Code 20A-7-502.7. There's a list of things. It states that your job as the county commission is to determine whether the matter is referable to the voters. If you remember from the referendums, there were only 3 categories of reasons why something wouldn't be referable. For an initiative, there's more than that, and they're listed in that code section. So one of those is letter D. The proposed law could not become law if passed. So state law requires 11.5% of the voters to sign the initiative. But then it also requires, the state law goes further with initiatives and with resolutions. It requires that there be a process where it comes before the commission to determine whether it's something that can go in front of the voters. There's a couple of other requirements, checks and balances, if you will, to make sure that it's appropriate to go on the ballot. And the initiative that is being presented in front of you doesn't account for that. And so in the law, we talk about preemption. If state law or federal law already occupies the field or covers the area, then there's not room for local ordinance to also occupy the field because the state law or the federal law preempts it. And so in this case, the 11.5% is not the issue. It's that there aren't any other requirements. Their initiative would make the ordinance of San Juan County strictly if 11.5% of the voters, if they collect signatures from 11.5% of the active voters in the county, then it goes on the ballot. And that's not reflective of state law. State law has other requirements that are required. The other, and then one of the other concerns that I have, again going back to that code section, is with paragraph C. It talks about if the proposed law is administrative rather than legislative in nature. So this initiative would enact an ordinance that the only body or the only entity that would be covered or regulated by this initiative would be the county commission. And so it's different from, I'm going to throw an absurdity out there, but if there was an initiative that required every household in San Juan County to have a horse, Okay, that would require everyone in the county. It would regulate everybody in the county. And here it's only regulating the county commission, which would fall in the realm of a policy or administrative action rather than a legislative action. And so those are my two main concerns, is that it fails the referability question on those two issues. I'd be happy to answer any other questions if you have them.
Well, I guess I'm not necessarily against the initiative process. If there's a proposal that has countywide implications and is of highly important information, I'm not against having a vote on it from the people rather than just have the three commissioners decide on that. And we've had discussions about this in the past, and so I guess I was trying to figure out if the people that were trying to get this initiative on the ballot had just made some mathematical errors in what they were trying to do, or whether there was some legal challenges or something else. But it sounds like you've got some concerns with the whole thing.
Yeah, it appears as though they're wanting to maybe simplify the process, which I can appreciate. The initiative process and the referendum process changed in 2019, just this year, and the state legislature decided to make that process a lot more complicated than it used to be. But that's not the county commission's fault. That's not the county attorney's fault. It's not John David's fault at the clerk's office. That's what the state legislature decided to do, and so we're playing within those parameters that were set forth. And so they went to the state legislature. If you dive into these sections, they went to great length to lay out every avenue of who does what and when and how many words and how many days, et cetera, et cetera. And so the state legislature clearly had the intent of making it a complicated process.
Do we have some kind of a template if people want to get an initiative on the ballot, that they have to fill all these boxes in, and so it can be referable, or are people just going to have to read the state code and figure it out for themselves?
Let me establish a motion here for our discussion. Do I have a motion? Motion by Commissioner Grayeyes. Do I have a second? Second by Commissioner Adams. All we're doing.
I'm not necessarily seconding. Why are we making this motion before we discuss it?
It simply states that whenever time a presenter comes before you and gives you the update, you establish a motion for a discussion. That doesn't mean that you're voting for it. All you do is establish your position to discuss the item. And then after that, you're given a chance for either vote or vote it down. So for the record, through the Robert Rules of Order, that's what it states, is that you establish a motion and you talk about the item. So do I have a second? The motion. But if we decided to throw that out of the door, I guess we can pretty much just do what we want and go with what we feel. Mr. Everett?
Just process-wise, what you said is fine, but you also are okay having some discussion prior to a motion too. But if it helps to clarify what you're talking about, specifically to narrow the discussion, sometimes a motion can be helpful to make sure you're talking about what the motion is. However, I think the commissioner has a decent question out to Tom David there.
I think there's also room to make a motion second for discussion, and that's where we are. And at the end of the discussion, if there's no more comments or opinion, then the main motion can be amended to either pro or con.